All right, we're live. So there was a comment last time about it's gross when I drink water at the same time. So I'll try to do my best and wow, I really fucked that up. And use the mute button when I get a swig of water. But how we doing today, guys? It is the 2nd of January. I'm pretty good, still not sleeping all that great because it's fucking cold, but other than that, pretty good. You know how this goes. Questions you put in the chat, I answer them. The better the questions are, the better the stream is, and we will go from there. So, Hitman, in regards to the last question I posted yesterday, what I meant to say is I can fill up the first 5 inches completely, and then in regards to the other question I had, when I started using the 2 1/8 tube, the expansion felt somewhat euphoric, like I had a tight muscle that needed to get released. But yeah, there's something in my D, probably years of death grip trauma added to it. So like if you feel like there's actually something in your dick, you might want to go to your urologist and see if you have any like fibers build up in the corpus cavernosum, because you know, like you can fix it with PE, but like it's probably good to know if you have it. If you don't, if it was like in the taint proper, it's probably like a tight muscle, like, you know, the ischio-cavernous muscle, but you know, that's a little weird, I will be honest. Okay, Jung. If the size of the pump is appropriate, the rubber attachment is too tight and restricts the expansion at the base, then does this hinder results? So yes, because it's going to be kind of like turning down the faucet a bit, so like you're compressing the arteries of the penis so that way blood can't get in. So like pump sleeves are useful for like if you're in between size cylinders, but for the most part you don't really need them if you have a proper size cylinder. So like I don't use one on the 2 1/8 that I use because like it's like a perfect fit for like the top half of my shaft. But with the 2 1/4, there's sometimes I would use it just so that way I don't get as much skin in it. So it really just depends on what cylinder size you have compared to your dick. Let's see. Teddy, high BD is 30 minutes of extending and 7 pounds of pumping, 7 to 8 inches of mercury enough for gains. Probably. It depends on how much pumping you're doing. Like if it's 10 to 20 minutes, yeah. If you're doing like 60 minutes, it's probably too much. You might need to bump up the extender numbers as we progress. So like normally the sweet spot's going to be between 40 to 60 minutes of like a high tension extender. And then with pumping, it's still going to be about 20 to 40-ish minutes, depending if you're going for length or girth, but you get the idea. And then Hitman, I also realized since I got the new electrical pump, my thoughts have changed the way I do what I think. I do too much time, which is an issue in the first place. Again, there is a spectrum between how much pressure versus how much time. If you're doing like an hour, that's probably going to be too much. But if you're doing like 20 minutes at 20 inches of mercury, for example, that's going to be too much pressure then. So like you just got to figure out what's going to work best for you, and then there's going to be guidelines for everyone else. And then Teddy being a little mean, go touch grass, Hitman. BD probably hates you. I don't hate you, but you do have a lot of questions, which is fine. It's just funny because you're always the first one in here. I forgot to mute the mic. I'm sorry, guys. If it is really that gross, let me know, and I will try my best. So, Little Pickle, back in high school, my GF said I was her smallest ever. My stats were 6.5 non-bone press by 5.5 mid-shaft. That may not be big, but at the end of the day, I think some girls really just want to mess with a man's ego. So, like, this is just a trend I noticed, is that guys that are easily manipulated and put down tend to get stuck with the same type of woman over and over again because they're easy targets. So like if you don't have like self-respect for yourself, it is very easy to fall victim to the same type of personality traits constantly, to the point where your self-esteem is so low you think that's the only person you can get. So yeah, there's going to be a point where some people, doesn't matter if it's woman or man, that will do this manipulation stuff to make you get attached to them, to think that there's no way you could possibly do better than them. And, you know, it's part of their own insecurities actually in that case. Just pulling up my chat stuff here, or like stream stats. Antolian Tiger. People say water pumping leads to more uniform pressure. What does that mean, and what is the exact benefit from it? So, in general, like air pumping is going to be uniform too, because it's entropy, and like the molecules of air will dissipate evenly. What the difference is with water is that pressure changes happens immediately, and since water can't compress or expand, all that pressure would then be applied directly to the dick, because that's going to have a much better chance of expanding than something like water. Granted, there's a lot of water in you, but the structures in your dick will take most of the pressure. So physically speaking, water makes pumping more effective, but like at the same time, it's a lot more of a hassle, and then there's a lot more like finickiness, or like trial and error with water. Like it's very easy to overwork when you use water. It's very easy to get petechia, or the red dots, and bruising from water, since the pressure builds up so quickly that it just bursts all the blood vessels very quickly. And that's like one of the main issues with the bathmate, is since you have to shove it on you to make it lose pressure, it's very easy to like use too much pressure too fast. Dashatorius. So real quick, when you start the stream, you should wait a bit until the stream is online. I normally do. I get a big thing that says you're live over here, so I don't know if it's lag on YouTube's end or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. If it's actually an issue, guys, let me know, and I will wait another 10 seconds or so. Okay. Jeff Hayes, do you use lotion when doing diamond jokes? Because when I do static stretches, I struggle. You should use lotion, and you should just have a towel on hand. Like, obviously, there's going to be different kinds of viscosities of lotion. So, like, the lotion that I use dries pretty quickly, and then, wipes away pretty quickly. It's just Gold Bond Men's lotion, body lotion. So, like, I never had issues with it. The main issues is, like, making it get out of my hands, because, there's a lot more texture to your palms and such. So you got to really, like, wipe your hands down well. But, like, trust me, it's worth it to do the diamond jokes. A lot of people in here today. Wow. Okay. What clamps do you use, and where to get them? So at Peak Male Physique, I use little black rubber rings. We call them BFR rings. We sell them in packs of 3, 5, and 10, and that's what I use for clamping mainly. It's basically one size fits all, because like the smallest one's going to fit guys like up to 4 inches, and then the biggest one's going to work for guys like literally up to 8 inches. So if you're smaller than 4 inches, all you got to do is find a little bit of silicone, put it under the ring set, and that way it's going to act as padding. But in general, it works the same way as soft clamping at that point. Then you can look at like Walmart, or like maybe even Lowe's, for something called a cable cuff or a cable clamp. I don't necessarily recommend them, but that's usually what the old school PE does. Dashatorius. Okay, we did that one. Good afternoon, says Nate. Hope all is well. I'm good, except I just cannot not cough when I go to bed. Like last night, I almost threw up because I was coughing so much, and like it's literally just a cough. I have no fever. It is just so fucking annoying. So once I figured that out, I am actually great. But I just got 3 messages from the same email. I need to turn off phone link. Give me 1 minute. Make that 4. Okay. Avinash, how to accelerate P when you're a grower. So the main thing that might actually be an issue for growers is that since you're in a smaller state, you're going to heal in that more condensed state. So your tunica is going to more likely become thicker rather than longer. So the easiest way to fix this is make sure your tunica is not always in that tight bundled state. So like either get an all-day stretcher, do some post-pump cockring wear, or, stretch your dick out more often, pump more often, just to get that shape change to happen. And then eventually you'll build up collagen in place of it. and you'll actually become more of a shower, because what makes you a grower versus a shower is usually how much elastin you have in your dick compared to collagen. You don't really grow that much elastin with PE. You grow a lot of collagen, therefore you become a shower. After years of PE, I'm still obsessed with gains, but I care less about what girls think about my size. Sometimes I clamp in my car on my way to work to save time. Okay, please be very careful. And when I started joking in 2012. So like, that's a relatively healthy mindset, but do not be the guy that gets pulled out of the car with a fucking cock ring, or like, you know, a set of cock rings on his dick. Like, there was a report from Poland that had a guy that was literally in a fatal car accident with a dick pump on. So please be careful. Like, I don't want to see any of that. Okay, in regards to the question about collagen yesterday, I've been taking Gorilla Minds, collagen peptides type 1, 2, and 3 for 2 years now, so maybe that's been helping me. More than likely, no, because like, that collagen needs to be digested into amino acids and then delivered to the penis. So like, if you're eating a lot of animal protein, it's going to be good. And like, even then, it's a supplement. So like, it's going to get you to normal, to optimal levels. So like, if your penis already has optimum levels, it's going to go regardless. Ingesting more collagen won't make it grow any faster. HM25, do you think hanging or extending is a superior method? Also, do you think hanging weight versus extending weight is apples to apples? So if it's high tension extending and hanging, they are practically the same thing. The only difference is that since the extender pushes into your pelvis and out into open space, it's more of like a stretching effect from the center, versus hanging, which is just pulling out into open space. So that's more of a pulling effect from the root of the penis. So if we're just thinking about this practically speaking, it's going to be a little more efficient to use an extender. The main reason why I like using an extender is that you can like be somewhat mobile with it, and you can like wear it while sitting more easily. You can walk around with it a little bit more easily. And there's potential, since like we have 2 points of contact, right? One at the base, one at the head. We actually have proper tension, and that could actually technically double the amount of tension applied to the dick. I don't know exactly if that's correct, because, you know, physics is not my strong suit. But in general, I'd say extending has the edge on hanging. Granted, I've gained an inch with hanging. I've gained an inch with extending. They will both work. It just depends how much money you have to spend on a device, right? And for the most part, it's apples to apples. It's just like apples to apples plus, you know. That's weird. Hold on, TJ. I've been on Virility for 4 days. Also started eating pumpkin seeds, but read that pumpkin seed oil is even more effective, so ordered some more. Haven't noticed any difference. How long should it take? Like, I noticed it almost immediately. Are you like on testosterone replacement therapy or anything like that? Because that could impact it. Also, hydration really matters for this, because like it pulls more fluid into, you know, your like prostate and all those little glands down there. So if you're not properly hydrated, that could be part of the issue. But like, I would say it works for 80% of men. 20% of men just won't have that much of an effect. Norders, is there something such as manual extending? That would just be manual stretching. So like, if you excuse me, it's literally tension is tension. So like, it doesn't matter how you do it. It's going to be the exact same biophysical processes. So like, you're pulling on your dick, the tissue starts breaking down a bit, stimulating growth factor release. No matter how you do it, it's going to work. Hanging just allows you to do it automated, and then stretching actually allows you to change the shape of, hold on. Okay. Wait. Oh, that's funny. Male Hanger Ben just made a post on Reddit about extending versus vacuum, extending versus hanging, and all that. So you guys can check that out on r/getting bigger. But in general, tension is tension. That's all you need to worry about. I just had to make sure it wasn't like a hit piece on me. Okay, Eddie. Weight loss and pumping contributes to being a grower and shower. It's amazing, brother. Now 7x6 non-bone press. Goal is a 1/2 inch in length and 1/2 inch in girth. So you want to be like absolutely like literally wrist thick, and then 7.5 inches long. Why not just go for 8 at that point? Just saying. But weight loss definitely does help. For me, it hasn't been overly that much different in my own shape lately, because like I lost a lot of, you know, pubic fat in the first month or so, but like I'm starting to get like that V tapered to my dick, and it just kind of like just makes it more visually appealing. I don't know if I want to say bigger, but you know, if you guys like need to lose weight, and you know if you do, I would strongly recommend doing it, because it's just going to make you look much better sex appeal wise, like if it wasn't obvious. Mac, I pump at 12 inches of mercury, I would assume, 3 to 5 minutes twice a day. Will I see gains, and how long should I do it? At some point, should I increase pressure? So like starting at 12 inches of mercury might be a little bit too much. Pay attention to your erection quality. If you don't have issues, that's fine. But like think about it this way. If you start at such a high pressure right off the bat, you have less chance of progressive overload later on. You'll just have to take a break sooner, so that way you can continuously gain at that pressure zone. Not the end of the world, but it's something you got to keep in mind. But like normally 12 inches of mercury is going to be more for like intermediate to advanced pumpers. You will probably gain, but like you will also have some like stress signals that you need to pay attention to, mainly turtling, mainly lack of erection quality, and lack of like morning wood. Jay Betts, hope you're well and the bird flu cough is gone. No, it's not. It was like extra bad yesterday. I literally almost threw up coughing. And like it's like I'm not draining, it's just a tickle in my throat anytime I lay down after 8 p.m. So I'll survive. Train. Back from the deconditioning 2 weeks ago. Is 2.5% strain enough for my elongation? Currently getting strain at 25 minutes, 6.5 pounds of tension. Plan to move up weight or time if not above 2%. You are doing pretty good, especially in 25 minutes. I would potentially say, like, if you're hitting strain in 25 minutes, make sure that you're holding that shape for a little bit longer. So like if it takes you 20 minutes to get there, probably do 30 minutes total. But other than that, you're probably right on track. Now the main thing is like just getting the shape to change. Okay, Isaac, let's consider fibrosis in the corpus cavernosum and therefore doesn't expand properly to compress the veins around the D. Erectile dysfunction due to venous occlusion. Is that possible with PE? If so, what can I do? So like any type of fibrosis is possible with penis enlargement. That being said, getting like actual corpus cavernosum fibrosis means you are doing some catastrophic shit for an extended period of time. That kind of fibrosis is normally from like lack of use and then like sex injury, because like you get a penile fracture and it doesn't set right, and then that's when the fibrosis comes in. For PE, you would literally have to be pumping like 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, hanging 20 pounds off your dick to literally break your dick. But it is possible, exactly how you said. I just think there's going to be a lot more more likely potential avenues for erectile dysfunction from PE than fibrosis of the corpus cavernosum. Okay, HM, for vacuum extending, do you currently prefer to use lotion or Vaseline or the water trick? I hate the idea of the taping method, so don't include that. I use lotion. Excuse me, that was a gross burp. But I use lotion, and it doesn't really matter what you use. I just find lotion to like be a lot more gentle on the skin, and I just have some issues with water with getting a proper seal on the bell sometimes, but I might just be an idiot. So do that as you well. I know a lot of people have success with both. I just prefer lotion, and I think you get a little bit more expansion with lotion than water. Okay, I'll come back to Hitman and Little Pickle, but since we were just talking about this, and what's the healing process for like corpus cavernosum fibrosis? So like honestly, it's going to be the same thing as any other physiotherapy-based fibrosis breakup. So like you need to stretch it a bit and get it to set right in the correct shape, and over time, that fibrosis will break down. I think ultrasound therapy might actually be pretty useful for this, but like you could probably do it with just like BFR massage and just gentle pumping to like coax the tissue to expand more and more, loosening up that fibrosis over time. And then you could see probably like an 80% return to form within 6 months with just proper implementation of that. But like if you do think you have corpus cavernosum fibrosis, go to your urologist. They can literally do an ultrasound to see if you have it. Okay, so Hitman, so I've been doing 20 minutes of pumping morning and night, up to 15 inches of mercury. Come on, dude. And I've been changing it to 15 minutes AM PM from 12 inches of mercury to 15. Yeah, so the main thing is like 15 inches of mercury, you've only doing PE for like 4 months at this point, right? 15 inches of mercury is a lot. Just be careful. Like, again, there's only so much room you can like progressively overload, right? So if you're going to the hard mode right off the bat, you're not gonna have that much room to progressively overload right away. Kenny, what traction is it normal to get more girth gains than length gains? It is very rare to like actually get more girth gains than length gains if you're doing length work. Like you're better off pumping or doing you know, clamping even to get it. But like most of the time, if you're going to gain girth from length work, it's going to be at the base where all the fibrous tissue, you know, connective tissue is. And then as that stretches, it builds up to hold the weight. So like heavy hanging, it would normally be above like 12 pounds is going to be the point where you start seeing some base girth come in. Okay, too cold, BD. I'm having a hard time getting suction. I've tried a lot of methods. Is it possible because I'm not filling up my sleeve and belt? I'm 4.5. Girth, please help. So like some guys, and like I even have this issue with like, if it's the sleeve and the belt are known to be good, right? There's gonna be like a little air pocket potentially right between the sleeve and the shaft. So like you need to tighten up that gap. So like if you use a little cock ring or a rubber band right under the, you know, right on the sleeve, it should close up that gap and you should be good to go. You could also fold the sleeve over itself and it's going to make a tighter compression, and that way it should stop it. But like more often than not, if they're like within the size range for that sleeve and bell, you probably just have faulty equipment. So like whoever you sold it to or whoever sold it to you, reach out to them, see if they'll send you a new one. And getting bigger, Reddit says hit the like button, guys. Again, you guys don't have to. I'm going to be here regardless, but it does make me feel good. So, J Bets, if there's changes to the girth on top and base but not mid shaft, is that more of a lymph issue than actual growth? Not necessarily, because like I had like a natural spade shape for a while. That's more of a sign that you have just tight tissue in the center of your dick. And like the easiest way to fix that is going to be doing massages to like relax the tissue so it can expand properly. It's also like, they used to call it like a jelking injury, where since you're like gripping and then squeezing, you're kind of changing the shape of the tissue by building up a lot of pressure at the tip and then compressing it right there so it kind of baseball bats out. But it's also a natural shape occurrence, so like I wouldn't take it too seriously, but like I don't think it's a lymph issue as much as it is just that you have a stressed out center. That's weird, Dashatorius. I'll be more mindful tomorrow. Dictelligent. Order the little blue vibe in mail hanger, planning to start almost like a beginner but with a vibration addition. Do you have a video related to the little blue vibe, or can you say what setting to use? So like with the little blue vibe, it's going to be, I already have it set here, something like that on the dial. So like level 3 to 4 is what I have. And that's going to be enough to, like, you know, bounce it, but not like rip your dick off. And again, like, it's like half the power. Not even half, it's probably like a quarter of the power of the big gray one. So like, you have a lot more tolerance and frequency that way. Okay, sorry. Hank was messaging me. Again, people love talking to me at 2 p.m. I don't know why. Is it okay to keep on pushing the hog extender in my pelvis while extending with the male hanger? It feels like every 10 minutes it starts to feel lighter. So like, if you're elongating, dude, your dick is going to literally allow the springs to decompress. So you need to tighten it again to get the same compression. It's a really good way to know if you're actually stretching. Like, for the first 5 to 10 minutes of my length routines, I'm constantly adjusting my apex extender because of that. And like, once you stop doing that as much, you're probably close to your end of your session, because like, at that point you're literally pulling your dick apart rather than coaxing it to elongate. Cosmo, is there a video on how to do the diamond jelk? On r/getting bigger, I can almost guarantee it. Just like type in diamond jelk, and then, you know, make sure it's searched by hot or by top or something like that, and it will come up. It's going to be me showing you, and there's also one on my Pornhub with like a voiceover. Hitman says he bought my lotion yesterday and can't wait to get it and see the results. So like, it's not going to make you grow faster, especially with how fast you're already growing. But I've noticed it's honestly like one of the better skincare products on the market, just because like, I just threw a bunch of shit in it to make it like as efficacious as possible. But it's not going to make your dick grow faster. It's probably just going to keep your skin really healthy while using it, or, you know, doing PE. TJ, grown about 1/8 of an inch of girth in the first month. Is this normal? And can I expect it every month? So like, I expect most people to gain about a 1/16 of an inch of girth. Like, it's going to be almost imperceptible. Like, so just remember that as you move forward. It's possible to like gain an inch of girth, or not an inch of girth, geez, an 1/8 of an inch of girth frequently, but like, that's going to probably slow down a lot by month 3 or 4, just because like, your erection quality is maxed out and like, any initial shape change already happened. So it will get harder, at least it should. Mr. Steve, what do you think about cheap pumps with a gauge from Amazon? I like the bathmate, sort of tried needing to use the water. Is lube mandatory for air pumping? So first, lube is mandatory for the most part, because otherwise you're gonna get a lot of skin abrasion. Honestly, I'd recommend you using some kind of like lube while bathmate, or you using a water pump, because it just keeps your skin from getting the, you know, gator bite, as they would call it. And then the cheap pumps are hit and miss on Amazon. Like, it depends on how cheap. Like, some of them are actually going to be quite painful to use because the plastic's so thin, it digs into your, you know, pelvis. Trust me, we got a couple freebies from our manufacturer. They fucking suck. Like, I would not recommend them for that purpose. But like, if it's thick enough, the main issue is that it's going to be like one size fits all. So like, it's going to be quite big for a lot of guys. And you can end up pumping your mons pubis more than your actual dick. But for the most part, the premise is the same. It's just like, it might break down faster. Like the product itself. Lenny, what's the best length device as a beginner? Manuals take too much time for me. So like, I would say you want to get like any kind of hanger, because like, that's going to be really cost effective. And like, it's going to be very easy to add in, like, say, the apex extender or hog stretcher after the fact, because you already have the equipment to attach to it. But like, for example, you could buy my vacuum hanging kit at Peak Male Physique for like 20 to 30 bucks at this point. I gained an inch using that exact kit. So like, $30 for an inch, I think that's a great deal. Obviously, it took me a year, but that's going to be your best bet. And then I do have free routines on the YouTube already. You just got to find the hanging video explaining the premise of hanging. And like, obviously, if you want a male hanger, same idea. I think you skipped my question. No, I definitely answered it. So like, TJM, when it comes to virility like I'm going to say 80% of guys are going to have a good effect from it, and then 20% of guys are going to be low-ish responders. But make sure you're getting enough fluid, and if like you're on TRT, I could see that potentially messing with like the hormonal response, because like you're so numbed out at that point to anything hormonally related that it's not going to work. And also, like if you're on HCG, it's going to be very hard to go like beyond how much HCG's already boosted you. So like we're just getting whatever's left from the seminal volume of all the glands, you know, secretion and all that. So like it's going to be largely dependent on that at that point. Okay, caramel or caramel. I say caramel because there's an A and I don't know why people drop it. But anyway, could you use a sports massage therapy vibration gun against my pump? Be useful for maximizing gain. I tried it, it felt too good, no pain at all. I noticed some bruising but bigger expansion. So like the problem with like a massage gun is that the power and like stroke length, okay, is too long for such a sensitive tissue. So like a massage gun is going to go like anywhere from 1 to 4 millimeters deep, because like, you know, it has to try to get into the deep thigh, maybe even high as a centimeter depending on like the device. With a like little vibration engine that I've been using a lot recently, that's only going to be like up to 1 millimeter at most. So that's going to be a lot safer and it covers a wider surface area, so it's going to be a lot less pinpointy. I don't think massage guns are going to be really that useful for PE just because it's so powerful, made for like, you know, again, thigh muscle rather than the penis. Okay, waking dream, 4 days without erection, tiny flaccid, no sex drive, hope to get better soon. Can you make an explanation of your COVID experience and how much it affected you? So I think the reason why I lost size with COVID is because I continued to try to do PE with it, and like my body was like, okay, either we fix the shit with COVID or we fix the dick, and it decided to survive instead of like grow my dick. So that's why I lost size, because I was still doing PE at the same time. So like I just kept breaking down the tissue rather than building up the tissue, and that was it. But if you're that sick, I would go to a doctor, because like you should still be getting somewhat of a sex, you know, appeal of response, and see what they have to say. If it's COVID, then just, it fucking sucks. Get ready. You will recover, but like, you know, expect your erection quality to be shot for like a month or two as you recover. And hello, Spooky. Let's see. Little Pickle, I used to clamp for an hour and listen to a guy named Sodium. And I had more than 10 toad chills on and hurt myself. I have better expansion of interval pumping and safer, thanks, Speedy. Oh man, yeah. I'm trying to be, you know, new year, new me bullshit. But God, he was very annoying. That's all I'm gonna say. And like, he wasn't wrong with the premise, right? Like, there's a way to get a lot of overexpansion doing this, but like guys take it to the extreme far too often. And like a lot of PE, and a lot of reason why PE doesn't work for people is because they just try to literally do everything as much as possible when like you only need like 20 to 30 minutes max a day, as it would seem at the moment. So yeah, anyway. Planks. If you were to restart, would your routine be, what would your routine be, such as devices, exercise, etc.? There's just so many options, and some are more complicated, but that would be the most efficient. So like, I made a playlist on, you know, this YouTube, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide, and I also wrote that book. Practically speaking, that's what I would be following as a new guy who actually was able to adhere to a consistent routine. So it's always going to be like, you know, like 3 to 5 minutes of massage before I do my length work. And then I'm going to probably finish that length work off with pumping. But like, I gained an inch already with manuals. So like I would probably start with manuals again. And then once that becomes, you know, too tedious, I would switch to like, probably jump right to like the Apex Extender, because I have the cash flows to handle like that investment. But in general, I've set up the Ultimate Beginner's Guide, that's the ebook, and like the YouTube series if you don't want to buy the ebook, to give you guys options, but keep it pretty consistent with like the structure of it. So check it out. It's gonna, I hope, help you a lot in the process of deciding what to do. But basically, 20 minutes of length, 10 minutes of girth every day is going to gain you a decent bit of length and girth and erection quality. New haircut indeed, longest. Yeah, with the yow. Could you explain gua sha a bit? I don't have the blade on me and I'm too lazy to get up. But basically, imagine this fork from my lunch is the blade. Imagine this is your PP. You go against the size of your PP while keeping it stretched out flaccid. You can do it a little semi-erect. I would also recommend doing it with a little bit of lotion. But you know, if you do lotion, you might overdo it a bit. What we're doing is we are literally pushing in against the superficial layers of collagen in the tunica albuginea, which then causes it to secrete growth factors and relax. For some reason, it really likes shear stress. So that shear stress causes the tissues to fully elongate, and then that would also break down a lot of like superficial fibrosis. So it's going to be pretty good at treating curves. But like you're not going to need more than like 50 to 100 scrapes each side. And then it's more of an additive movement than anything else, because it's going to make sure that your tissue is, you know, ready to be stretched rather than stretch it itself. Scott B, starting to look like a cone. Is that from hanging? Depends on how much weight you're doing. But I would actually make sure that your skin's not being pulled up from the base too much, because like it's like tenting, right? So like the skin on the pelvis migrates up because the skin on your penis isn't growing, because you are not actually stretching it. You're just pulling the dick forward. And then since the skin is easily stretched from your pelvis, it doesn't grow. And therefore your pelvis skin pulls up on your penis. Easiest way to fix it is literally put your hand there, pull the skin tight, and then hang. It's a little tedious, but like you could also probably get like a BDSM harness. Wear that and it'll keep your skin tight enough while you hang. Okay, since I started compression hanging, my erection quality has skyrocketed. I feel like a teen again, wondering if it will happen when I wear an extender / apex. So there's no real, again, no difference between hanging and extending when it comes to like the physiological process. It's literally about convenience at that point. Extending makes it much easier to walk around and sit at your desk, but in general, you will gain at roughly the same rate and have the same response. So if you get the response already, then you're probably not going to get it. Spooky, is sodium actually legit? No, he's not. That's all I'm gonna I'll leave it at that. Anyway, super chat from LR. Can I pump with some target to my glands to get a disproportionate exaggerated mushroom look? So I wouldn't say pumping is your best bet. What you really want to do is vacuum hang lightly with a pretty big bell, because that's going to make it an isolation chamber just for your glands. So like I grew my glands like literally like 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch in length, and then the girth is now the same as my shaft, even though it was significantly smaller beforehand. So that was from just hanging and then pumping immediately afterwards. Now there are devices like from LA Pump called the Mushroom Head Maker, but like those are a little dangerous because it isolates the shaft completely, and then there's so much extra room for the glands to expand, and it's pretty dangerous to overexpand since there's so many nerve endings. So like be careful with it, and it's also a little bit expensive, but it's very possible. Glands are actually very easy to grow since it doesn't have the same limiter as the tunica albuginea. It's just like, since it's the smallest part of your dick, it just takes a bit to build up. Okay, where did I leave off at? New haircut. Avinash, while doing PE, what results can we expect? So like, first, I also see the other question. They're mostly permanent. You'll probably lose 2 to 5% off the top. So like, expect to gain like 1/4 inch more than you really need to, and then you'll come back to your end size. Now that's going to be dependent on erection quality. So like, if you are not a healthy individual, you will lose size quickly because you just don't have the erection quality. So get healthy and you won't lose any erection quality. Then what to expect. In your first year, you can gain anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1 inch in length, and probably 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch in girth. Following year, half that. And then like I've noticed that I can gain like a half an inch in girth in 1 year if I focus solely on that, and I can gain an inch in length in 1 year if I focus solely on that and do that the entire year. But that's going to be largely dependent on like your genetics, your starting size, what luck you're doing, and how consistent you are. So in general, PE works, but like how much results you get is going to be totally dependent on you, and I can't give you a good answer on that. Spooky. I pulled extra hard today and started turtling. Today I simply used a shopping bag to pull down and got that extra length. So that's not a bad way to go about like making sure you don't overdo it. It's just like the shopping bag can start hurting your wrist, so be careful with that part. If you can get a device, like I've made it so you can find ones relatively easily and affordably that work pretty well. So you can do that, but like also just go on eBay. You can get practically the same thing. So yeah. So train. How many days in a row can you pump until erection quality diminishes? It really depends on how much you're working. So like put it this way, most guys, if they're in adequate physical shape, can probably run a mile every day with no impact on like their muscle fatigue. Granted, it depends on how hard you run and if you're trying to like break a PR, right? But if you try to run 5 miles in 1 day, I don't expect you to have the same performance the next day if you haven't practiced running 5 miles in 1 day, right? So in general, you can do upwards of 20 minutes of pumping daily at like, let's say 5 to 10 inches of mercury, no problem. But when we start getting into like the very high pressure ranges, or in the, you know, extended periods of like, you know, 40, 60, 80 minutes of pumping, that's when it'll start hurting erection quality drastically. And longest, you got Nemo in your tank. So those are Oxylarus clownfish, and that little black one floating around there was like, I think $60, maybe even more than that. The other one, I can't remember the exact price, but they are dumb as shit, guys. Like, I had to get a replacement clownfish because the male clown that was hosted to the female clown, you know, they're bonded pairs, just jumped out of the tank. And I've had to save them from the sump pump, that's the tank below this tank, multiple times just because they swim into the filter itself. It's a nightmare with these guys, but you know, it's part of the business or hobby, I guess. Nacho, does the angle matter when pumping or extending? Is it recommended to aim more downwards angle? I do straight out mainly for both, just for comfort. Like, that's going to be the most isolating for the shaft. Doing straight down is going to stretch the suspensory ligament a little bit more, but like if you actually have a suspensory ligament issue, you should probably be doing direct work of like between the cheek stretches. But for the most part, angle doesn't really matter that much. Just don't do straight up too often because that puts a lot of strain on the pelvic floor. Sorry. Retention works, says Farmer Rick. Worked for this grower just a month. Flaccid is around, I'm gonna guess, 1 inch longer depending on the temperature. I'm glad that worked, dude. I think you're doing some pretty significant stuff from what you told me in chat, so I'm happy for you. Let's see. Blade. I focus on length and follow the routines in your book, but I prefer clamping in the Python to pumping. Can I clamp? After the high tension extender, I get 4 to 6% with clamping. Yeah, there's no real reason why you shouldn't or can't, other than I just think pumping's more effective. If you're getting that expansion though, like, you're right on target. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. It's just a matter of preference at that point. Dashatorius. Can we use the lotion method as a newbie? Yes. Really the only thing you have to worry about is blisters. So like when it comes to all PE, like and vacuum hanging in particular, take a lot of breaks and then like take the bell off every 20 minutes or so to just check to see if you're getting a blister, so that way you can avoid it more easily. Train. Does strain with the device only really matter? Or should I worry about the bone press and bone press stretch flaccid? Love the content, by the way. So I honestly usually only recommend or not recommend, what I normally measure is fatigue afterwards, because it's just much easier for me because I'm using the apex extender, right? So like I can't really easily measure strain that well, and I don't know why I'm struggling to speak right now, but like I honestly think strain in device is going to be the most accurate, just because like you won't have to worry about like stress retraction or anything like that, but like fatigue rate is a little bit easier to pull off consistently. So that's how I do it. Like I'm just trying to keep it as easy as possible to be consistent as possible. Give me 1 second, guys. So TJM about Virility not working for him, he is on TRT. So I don't know how long you've been on TRT, but like there might be like a loading period for you to like get that release of hormones back up and running. But like again, I'm on testosterone as well. I do see improvements with it. So give it the full month, see what happens, and then go from there. But like you might need like HCG or something like that to really get the boys working again. Okay, Hitman, for tight pelvic floor issues, do you think it's recommended to go to a chiropractor to get your hips adjusted if needed? I have old man bones at 30. So it depends. Like it largely depends. Like if you are doing all these stretches that I've showed already on like whatever I called that video, that's going to slowly work your bones back in place because the tissue elongates and then it just wants to sit in its natural length position, right? Now, I'm not saying don't go to a chiropractor, but don't expect it to fix your pelvic floor issues, because that's going to be a whole myriad of potential issues, whether it be, again, it could be spinal compression or something like that, but it's more likely like hip tightness, and that's like a lack of flexibility more than anything else. So, hey BD, any tips on gaining a good steel for vacuum extenders? I tape, but for some reason I keep losing suction. I am uncut and my forcing keeps riding up. Any idea? So what device are you using? If you're using like a Total Man cup, you need to use a little rubber piece over the tip to keep the seal in. Then make sure you have good sleeves, and then make sure your sleeve is tight enough to keep a seal on its own. And then if you're using like one of the cheap Chinese cups that I sell, it's going to potentially just be a bad vacuum cup. But for the most part, when I have issues with a cup, it's normally because my sleeve is going bad, or I just have a mismatch between the sleeve size and the length, or the diameter of the cup. Okay, in regards to my question about the change in routine, I've been doing this since March 29th and took a month off because I hurt myself. Not 4 months. I wish I got these gains in 4 months. Well, that makes a lot more sense, but let's see, Waking Dream. So about the stream starting, me mid-sentence, just rewind a bit. I mean, that would work. I'm assuming it's just because it's like a worldwide stream at this point. There's going to be some latency, so whenever you start, it starts, right? Whenever it gets the signal. That cream you sell online, does it help with sensitivity? I'm thinking about getting one. Anecdotally speaking, yes, but it wasn't designed to increase sensitivity. In general, all the stuff that's good for collagen production and like anti-fibrosis is going to also be good for nerve health. But in general, the healthier the skin, the healthier the nerve endings in the skin are, therefore the more sensitive you are. And LR, I am not offering coaching at this time. I am extremely busy, and it would just be a disservice to everyone if I did coaching, because I would not be able to get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. Half empty soul. Soft clamping before or after pumping. I would recommend after, because you get all that expansion, and then you would basically hold that shape with a bit of additional pressure after the fact, and that's going to be the most effective. So to me, get as big as possible, hold the biggest shape for an extended period of time, and that's going to be like the recipe for growth gains. Are length gains permanent, or do you need to maintain it all? So like if you have bad erection quality you will lose like length gains like as your erection quality returns to baseline. So like if you're not a healthy individual to begin with, you'll probably lose some length significantly, but you should probably overshoot your goals as well by like 1/4 inch, usually, because we can expect that tissue that gained a lot of flexibility since you're constantly stretching it to lose that flexibility. So if you are shooting to be like 7 inches long, shoot to be like 7 1/4 when you end, and then you'll probably end up at 7 inches even. JB, yesterday I told I'd take a deconditioning break and I started to feel ache at the base. Would it be better to use the ADS during that break? So I don't know how much that would impact the idea of avoiding strength adaptation, but it would help like make sure you stay the size that you are during that break. So you can give it a try, but like if it's like just as hard to gain after the fact, you're probably gonna need another break without the ADS. Okay, 0. I have a lot of fibrosis buildup doing PE for 1 year. I've seen gains, however. I want to know what you were doing to get that fibrosis. I'm wondering if that new tissue I built, that's fibrosis, has gone to waste, or would realigning show the gains? So like, it depends on the type of fibrosis, but like fibrosis in general is just disorganized collagen, right? So like there's different types of collagen. The penis is type collagen 3 mainly. So like if it's type collagen 3 fibrosis, when you start breaking it down, it should eventually work back into the shape, but you will lose some of that buildup by design when you break it down, right? Because like some of it's not going to be in the right shape. But like if it's like compressing the healthy tissue and like a coil almost, what happens when you remove the bundle of fiber on top of it, it pops open and therefore you're longer. So like it won't necessarily be the fibrosis being organized as it is that you're releasing the trapped tissue from the fibrosis that will allow you to be bigger afterwards. Okay, Happy New Year, says DRX. DRRX, there we go. And then Destroyer, hello. They talk sex. Do you consider erection quality gains permanent, real gains? I would like to say they are real because like they show on the roller, they are usable. They're technically not permanent, but they are variable, right? So like literally if I got a piss poor night's sleep, I will have worse erection quality the next day. Did my dick actually get smaller? No, but like my ability to perform is worse. So like to me, erection quality is about performance rather than actual size. So like we can maximize our performance at any size, but it's going to be the most variable part of PE. Good morning all. It's 3 o'clock here, but good morning. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading too many questions at once. Is turtling a bad thing? In general, it's a sign of overwork. So like if you're turtling consistently after every PE session, you're probably doing too much work. So cut back your workload. Now, if you've been doing that for a while, anytime you do PE, it's like a reflexive response that you turtle. So if you've been doing that for, let's say, for 6 months straight and you turtle after every session, you're actually gonna need like a month or 2 off, and then you're gonna have to learn to relax again and then come back and do PE so you don't turtle afterwards. And then you probably wanna actually wear an all-day stretcher after PE to keep that shape so you don't immediately turtle. Hitman, what gland size do you consider big? Last question, I don't want you to hate me. I don't hate you. I'm gonna touch frozen grass outside now. So my glands are like just under 6 inches at the corona. I would consider that like massive for the most part because like most guys have a natural taper. 5.5 would be the point where I like, okay, that's pretty big. 5 would be like big-ish. And then, you know, once you start getting back into the normal-ish size, it's so basically if you look at the average size dick, it's gonna be like 1/4 of an inch less than the average. Like, you know, based off of like the size scaling. Planks, overall, what do you think of water pumps? So like, you can use water in an air pump. You just got to be careful not let it get in your gauge. And like I actually dropped my auto pump in my bath the other day and it still works just fine because I was literally water pumping my nuts. But in general, the premise of water pumping has been around long before BathMate. Now, BathMate is kind of a bad device because mainly it causes you to push down with excessive force onto your pelvis without able to measure the pressure. So it's very easy to overdo it and, you know, cause bruising and all that stuff. So like water pumping with an air pump, perfectly safe, probably slightly more effective than normal PE, you know, like normal air pumping. BathMate is a hit and miss just because it's so hard to get dialed in. Okay, Dashatorius, I'd rather extend with a high tension extender than doing hanging because it doesn't cause turkey neck. That's one of the other main benefits of extending. Yeah, I largely agree with that. JB, what does Farmer Rick use for an ADS? I think he was just using cock rings for an extended period of time, and that was about it. Not that I recommend it, but like if it works, it works. Scott B, the fatigue chart on PMP outside the pump, is that bone pressed, stretch flaccid, or bone pressed erect, I would assume? It's going to be based off your stretch flaccid when we're dealing with fatigue. But you should be a little bit longer after pumping, at least in my experience. Okay, have you heard anything about pumpkin seed oil and load size? So we're working on Virility Pro right now, and pumpkin seed is one of the new additional ingredients. So yes, I can guarantee, like I don't want to guarantee it, but I know it works for a lot of individuals. And then thoughts on hanging with the little blue vibe. It will be perfectly fine. I think it's just as effective as the big gray vibe. It's just, you might need to have a tighter fitting tube or cylinder to get it to work with pumping. And is it much smaller than the gray one? It's about either 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch shorter. And then it's literally like 1/4 the weight. So like it is a lot easier to work with. I don't know if they're all in that box, so I'm not even gonna bother getting up right now. But yeah, I think the blue one's gonna be the sweet spot for most guys, and then the little gray one is gonna be specifically for guys under like, let's say 4 or 5 inches who just want length. Dashatorius, how to avoid strength adaptation? Simply put, don't try to do strength adaptation. So it's largely inevitable because like by design, we are loading the tissue. The tissue is going to adapt to better able handle that load, right? The goal is to load the tissue as slowly as possible for a long period. So that way that strength adaptation is manageable. But when we get to a point where it is too much, all we got to do is take a like month to 3 months off, and then we'll lose that strength adaptation. So if we look at like an Achilles tendon, for example, and that shit is a lot stronger than a dick, if it's held in a cast for 8 to 12 weeks, it loses like 2/3 of its strength adaptation. So applying that to PE, if you take 2 months off, you'll probably lose about half of your strength adaptation to your dick. So if you're hanging at 15 pounds, when you come back, you'd probably only be able to handle 7.5 comfortably if you're lucky. So that's part of it. And then since, you know, your body remembers in its own, special way, that strength adaptation might come back faster, but then again, all you got to do is continuously take the breaks. Ugh. Will you upload a new video to Pornhub for the new 2025? Like, it's going to be PE related. That's about it. I have plans. It's just I have a lot to do, so. Decon to make your dick weaker. Exactly. That's as simple as it is. Can you look at a source for a waterproof auto pump? Wanted to buy yours, but it's not waterproof. I'll look into it. Might actually just make more sense to find like a case to fit the existing one. So I'll talk to my manufacturer. Okay, David, I'm employed at the moment into a country that does not allow pumps to be shipped in. I bought mine, but the gauge broke. Any recommendations how to still use it without damage? So if it's like the actual gauge of the pump itself, that's technically a car part. So like you can look up brake bleeder kit on like Amazon or whatever, and like it's going to be coming in as customs as, you know, repair tool for automotive, and that would be it. So you'd probably be able to get a new one just fine. Now if it's the cylinder, you're probably a bit out of luck, but the pump itself, easily replaceable. I could walk over to AutoZone right now and pick up one for an exorbitant amount of money compared to what they're actually made for, but you get the point. Antolian, please tell me Massive Novelties will release its ADS soon. Perv did say they're starting production very soon on them, so hopefully this month. But, you know, I don't know much other than what they're doing for me at the moment. Where'd my chat go? Okay. So, they talk sex. Heard yes and no on cock ring after pumping. Your thoughts? So, I am a huge proponent of it, if I'm being completely honest. But you have to understand the risk associated with it. More discoloration, typically. Chance of lymphoceles and lymphatic issues, since we're compressing the sides of the lymphatic system. That swelling builds up and sometimes it clogs, and that's what's going to cause a lymphocele. So if we're not careful, or if we're just unlucky, we can develop some lymphatic issues. I think it is pretty helpful for gaining girth in general, because it basically tells your tunica to relax in this shape that is much bigger than normal. So like you'll keep the flaccid size a lot longer, and then that's gonna just be conducive to overall shape change. Super chat from LR, how to make glands very long and strange looking. I'm not sure what you're doing, dude, but it'd probably be length pumping, I bet, because the shaft won't be able to expand and all that pressure would be like growing or just focused on the gland. So if I were you, it's going to be a bit hard to get away from that bulbous shape, but that's what I would do. You limit the pressure to just the length and maybe just a little bit of room to expand. You might even want to look at getting a custom glass blown, like pump with a bong, and that would probably be what you're going for. Okay, Antolian Tiger. You can get the bathmate with the handball though. You just need to jam the base against your jog, but it sucks. We don't know how much pressure we're using in the BM. That's a bummer. That's the main issue with bathmates in general, and that's why we don't typically recommend them. Should I take every set at the gym to failure? It depends on what you define as failure, right? Because like there's mechanical failure, and then there's like physical failure, and then there's a point of exhaustion. So you can see my fingers, right? So like mechanical failure is like, say you're doing curls and you keep curling and there's gonna be a point where you just can't finish that flex. That would be mechanical failure because the muscles literally can't flex anymore, right? And then we can do cheat curls as well, but is that going to be like sufficient or like more rewarding muscle stimulus by cheating and getting momentum with it, right? So for me, I mainly focus on doing mechanical failure, and then if I'm really trying to like exert a lot of fatigue to the muscle, you do drop sets afterwards to mechanical failure, because that's going to at least maximize the stimulus in a more efficient pattern than, you know, doing a bunch of cheat curls. But, you know, there's a lot of different philosophies to it. The main thing is like you get close enough to failure often. Like we're talking within 80% of failure for 80 to 90% of your repetitions, and you'll be good to go. Okay, I started pumping twice a day recently, but I've noticed I can't pump at high pressures as I did before. Is this a sign of overwork and that twice a day is too much? Not necessarily. Basically, the tissue is being pulled apart to the point where it is actually getting weaker. So that means the tissue is expanded properly, right? So once you get to the point where you're like at max expansion, it's not going to be able to handle the same load. So that's why I tell people to like change how much pressure they're using, because like if you did enough fatigue in your working set, your feeder set should be less pressure because you just don't need to use as much force to cause it to overexpand, right? So like if you're gonna do anything, just change your second set of the day to be lower pressure. And like I guess you have to by default, right? So okay, sorry. I don't think it was PE that caused the fibrosis, says Zero. It was already there and has improved, but I still have some. So PE in general will passively heal it, but like if you want to actively work on it, break out some physiotherapy techniques and literally massage the shit out of that area, it'll slowly break down. J-Bed's been pumping since March 23. I doubt you remember me. I remember you from the streams, but I don't remember you from that long ago. I've lowered the pressure to 8 and 8.5. No frog croaking, but now I worry I'm not doing enough. 2 feeders, 8 sets of 2 minutes of intervals. I usually stop at 8 and try to avoid the glands bloating. So like, this was the hardest thing for me when I switched from like old school to like whatever you want to call what I teach now, physiotherapy based, is that I was literally doing PE every other day for like 2/3 of the amount of time. And I was gaining fast as, if not as, or faster rather, than what I did doing old school methods. So like, trust me, I know how you feel, but like you got to trust the process a bit here. And like worst case scenario, you just didn't gain for a month or 2 and then we had to rework it again. Kenny, do you think age plays a factor in being able to be successful with PE? No. Like, so young people should recover faster, right? Just in general. But like we're talking like 10% faster than an older man. Like it's going to be imperceptible when it comes to like end results. And then older individuals will have a lot more erection quality improvements right off the bat. So in general, it evens out. Like some of the biggest gainers I know are over 50. So don't worry about it all that much. LOF. Do you have any plans for a new ebook or a course? Right now, my goal is to like revamp the Reddit a bit to keep all that information good and free and all that shit. No new ebook. I don't know if I'm ever going to do a course just because it's a lot of work and I kind of just think courses like that are a little bit icky, but we'll see. Like I'll just have to think of a good way to make sure it's fair value for everyone. So Zero with his fibrosis says it's significantly improved with tunic and release, and ask about gua sha and shape direction. I was only going top down for months. Now I feel it only going bottom up. Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying you don't feel the fibrosis going this way, but when you go this way you do? That, I have no clue why that would be. Do what you feel like you're actually working, is actually working. Let's see. Sunny Boy, I started injecting myself with testosterone and growth hormone. What do you think about that? Well, your age would say that you're 25, so I would have said wait a little longer, but I started taking testosterone earlier than you. But it's not going to impact PE. Main thing is like, make sure you're actually doing it because you want to be, you know, muscular and all that shit, and not trying to fit some ideal that society made you do. And it'll be a lot more fun that way because you don't feel like that additional pressure that you're not living up to expectations. All right. And Tiger with a question out of left field. Why are people liking Andrew Tate? What's wrong with these men? So like, this is something that I've thought about a lot, just because like I'm a relatively progressive guy, right? And I think there's a lot of guys that don't really know their place in the world, so they reach out for someone that gives them a very specific mindset and way to live, because like the world's changed a lot in the past 40 years. Like back in my hometown, you didn't have to worry about anything. You just graduated high school, go work in the steel mill, and you'd be able to raise a family. Now it's all bets are off. World's changed a lot since then. You have no real known path forward. So guys like Tate make it very easy to blame your problems on someone else rather than, you know, fixing your shit to live in this world. And there's a bit more to it than that, obviously, but it's mainly that these guys just don't have the proper support systems around them, so they reach out and find guys like him that are a form of a toxic support system that make it easier to understand the world. Two questions. How much fire goat rolls is needed to avoid discoloration? Back on track, I see. And is there pumping warm-up, or is just to get a boner and pump? Thanks. So this is from Eddie. Pumping warm-up would be any kind of massage mechanic, so like semi-erect, bends, BFR massage, all really good, 3 to 5 minutes before pumping. You're gonna have a lot better expansion, speaking from experience. Then fire goat rolls, you really only need like 60 seconds to 2 minutes to get like a good response from it. But I would probably recommend doing it between sets as well, so that way it just doesn't get built up and trapped. That's probably the main reason for discoloration. Not that it's just there, but it gets built up and then it's trapped, like the hemodisturbance staining. So LR, wearing a not too tight rings daily thought. So like if it's not tight enough, it won't have any effect. And if it's too tight, it would literally cause your dick to, you know, fall off and die. So I don't think it's worth it to do it all day. I think there's a benefit to doing it for like 10 to 20 minutes after pumping, but like the risk to reward ratio is not that great. And remember, anytime you compress the lymphatic system, edema starts to build up. So like it would be like false gains at that point. So just, you know, stick to the guidelines, 10 to 20 minutes after pumping, and that's probably going to be plenty for most. Okay, Scott, I'm using a 2 1/4 cylinder, but is recommended using a 2-inch. Will that start to be a problem? It's going to be mainly for comfort. Like, you could probably get your balls sucked in, and trust me, not fun. So I would recommend getting a pump sleeve that fits the 7-inch cylinder, and therefore your balls will have a much harder time getting sucked in, and it'll be a lot more comfortable. So Saf says he's 8x6 natural, and he just asked again, do you think I could, how big do you think I could get with PE? Like, so there's no real limit to how big you can get with PE. Like, people speculate there is one, but like once it's proven, we'll know, right? But you can't really prove it. To me, most guys can gain 2 inches in length and 1 inch in girth before they get bored with it. I've gained 3 inches in length, and I don't know the exact number of girth on the head off the top of my head, but it was like at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches at this point. So you can get quite big. 8x6, it's going to be percentage based, like, you know, so like it's 1% every month, but like it's still not going to be like that drastically different than someone that started at 6 versus 8, right? Because we're talking about 1% of 8 versus 1% of 6. It's going to be like 0.2 of a difference. So, you know, it's just that you would look freaky faster. So back to the manosphere and influencers. There are a lot of dummies in society, and they follow the most charismatic. Clearly, I'm not charismatic. Charismatic and charming influences. It's all marketing. Yeah. So like, this is kind of the realization I had recently, too. And like, if I'm gonna do the best I can with like selling this message about PE, I kind of have to be the male, like the straight male, sex fantasy. So like, you know, big, muscular, clean cut, and then massive dong. So yeah, trust me, I get it. There's a lot of ways to influence people, and the easiest way to do it is by having a good story and matching the part. James, using weighted extenders, I'm concerned with strength adaptation, but feels like the brunt of my stretch is happening from skin tension on the bottom of my penis. Do I need to use more weight? Depends on how much weight you're using, but like, so your skin has those actual stretch receptors, right? Like there's different types of nerve endings. Your tunica will not have that stretch receptor, so you will barely feel the tension. So your skin's gonna feel most of the tension is what I'm saying. So that's totally normal. And like once your skin's stretched out enough, you won't even notice it. So I just continuously do it until the skin's nice and loose, and therefore you don't have that issue. And trust me, it's gonna look a lot better when you're done too, like bigger, physically speaking. All right, and I'm gonna finish up with this super chat from LR. What is your pump routine and set? Thanks, boss. So generally speaking, and like if you want like a good video on how I break it up or break it down, check out BD's roadmap to girth gains. This is one of the top YouTube videos in the last 3 months or something on my channel. But you do one set in the morning of pumping, and then you do a working set of pumping at a slightly higher pressure, followed by a third set of pumping at night. So that way you get the shape change from the AM and PM sets, and then you get the actual tissue breakdown from the actual big working sets. And since you're pumped up basically all day, it's almost impossible for your dick not to start changing its shape. And then as the shape changes, that new tissue is built into that new shape change. So it's really that simple. We do a little bit of massage mechanics. If we're talking pressures, it's gonna be largely dependent on what you've been doing, but it's gonna be like 5 to 10 to 12 inches of mercury on pumping. And then those sets are gonna be like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, and then you're gonna do like 20 minutes midday, and I break those up into intervals. So that would be 10 sets of 2 minutes, and that's it. Like PE is pretty simple. It's just a matter of, doing it. All right, Scott B, last question, and then I'm out of here. Is 3/4 of an inch fat pad low? Not really. It's going to be pretty average, but like in the United States, it's going to be low. So like remember, most guys in the United States are going to be like 27% body fat or above. And when I was like 23% body fat, my fat pad was probably like 1 1/8 inches. So like keep that in mind. Being 3/4 of an inch fat pad's going to be like healthy average, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be technically small. So, all right. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. Save these questions for then. And thanks for tuning in, guys.